Millions of people have relied on a verse found in the book of Isaiah during their most trying times. Isaiah 40:31. The strength of those who wait on the Lord will be restored. Like eagles, they will mount high. They won't get tired while they run. They won't pass out while walking. It's likely that you have either murmured it to yourself during a time when the future seemed utterly uncertain, or heard it recited at a hospital bedside. It is among the most cherished promises found in the entire Bible, and it is rightfully so. However, I want to demonstrate to you today that the original Hebrew language holds something that the English translation just cannot convey beneath that verse and dozens of other promises. Hebrew accomplishes something with the idea of promise that alters how you hear each and every one of them, not because the English is incorrect. Here is what I'm referring to. The phrase promise appears hundreds of times when you open an English Bible. Land is promised by God. God makes a covenant to descendants. God assures us of his presence. God assures us that we will be saved. However, there isn't a standalone term for promise in the ancient Hebrew of the Old Testament. The dedicated word does not exist everywhere, but the notion does, and it is actually one of the limitations, not the other way around. One of the Hebrew language's most exquisite features, because the Hebrew term that is used in its place is davar, which means word. However, it also refers to matter, item, and occurrence. All of it is covered by the same word. Consider the implications of that. A word and an object are not distinct categories in the Hebrew mind. When God speaks, he is not stating a goal that might or might not materialize. He's making it happen. He speaks with substance. This is how Isaiah puts it. As a result, whatever I say will be true. It won't come back to me empty. Instead, it will fulfill my intentions and achieve the goal for which I sent it. That isn't a metaphor. That is an explanation of how God speaks. They land, construct, and transform into the exact thing they depict. Genesis 1 reads the way it does because of this. God said, "Let there be light." Light was also present. The appearance of light was not described by his davar. It generated it. And the engine is the same creative energy that transforms speech into matter. Throughout the Bible, God keeps all of his promises. "I will never leave you nor forsake you," he declares in Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. It's not a sentiment. It's a davar, something as tangible as anything. Davar is one of the most frequently occurring terms in the Hebrew Bible, appearing more than 1,400 times, and in some of the most intriguing contexts. The title in Hebrew for what the 10 Commandments are Hadei Dabrot, or the 10 words, not the 10 laws or the 10 regulations, because every single one of them is a davar, a verbal reality that molds the environment it comes into contact with. And when you start examining the particular promises God makes for the particular times of a person's life, because the Bible doesn't provide universal encouragement. It links certain words with specific Hebrew roots to specific human feelings. When you look at the words God selected for sadness, fear, and waiting, a pattern that shows something amazing about who he is becomes apparent. Nearly everyone will experience the first season several times in a lifetime, waiting for clarification that is yet to materialize, waiting for what seems like an endlessly lengthy healing process, awaiting the opening of a door, a call, or a change in circumstances, waiting for God to act while he appears to be utterly silent. This season was well known to the prophet Isaiah. He was writing to a people who might be banished or taken away from their motherland into Babylon for many years, decades, not a tough month. Additionally, he presents the issue with terrible honesty in Isaiah 40:28 through 30, right before the well-known verse 31. Did you not know? Did you not hear? The eternal God, The Lord, who created the ends of the earth, is never tired or faints. God does not avoid becoming fatigued. However, verse 30 states that even young people will become exhausted and faint, and they will completely collapse. Even the strongest, most active people will ultimately run out of energy. Isaiah is not being pessimistic. Human endurance has a limit. He's telling the truth. In order for what follows to fall with all of its weight, he names this reality. However, those who await the Lord will renew their strength and power. Here, the Hebrew word for wait is qavah. It becomes fascinating at this point. What the English term wait suggests is not what qavah means. Waiting is a passive verb in English. You look at a clock while seated in a chair. However, the word qavah has a basic meaning related to binding, twisting, or intertwining, much like when a cord's strands are woven together to make a rope. The picture is tangible. A single thread is brittle on its own. With little pressure, it breaks. After that, you twist it together with one more thread, then another, and so on. Additionally, the strength of the rope increases with the number of intertwined strands. The same thought is captured in Ecclesiastes. A three-stranded cable does not break easily. Thus, Isaiah's statement that those who qavah on the Lord are not stating those who endure passively. He is depicting a person who combines God's strength with their frail, wasted human weakness. The interweaving takes place throughout the waiting season. Before the good section of your story, there is no dead space. It is the procedure that turns a thread into a rope. This is further enhanced by the translation of renew in that verse. The Hebrew word shalaf means to exchange, to pass through, to substitute. It's a trade. You bring your tiredness. God offers you his vitality. It's a transaction, not a top-off. You give the thread to him, he gives the rope to you. The eagle comes next. He adds, those who qavah on the Lord shall mount up with wings like eagles. The way most birds fly is unlike how eagles fly. The majority of birds use flapping to propel themselves into the air. A thermal or rising column of warm air is discovered by eagles, and they let the river to lift them up by spreading their wings. The eagle is not the source of the energy. It originates from beyond the eagle. Positioning itself to accept what is already ascending is the eagle's job. That is the epitome of faith in the waiting season. Extending your wings, trusting the stream, and not flapping harder. Additionally, there is a detail in this verse that is simple to overlook. Soaring, running, and walking are the steps in the sequence. It is arranged in descending order. The majority of life is nor the times of eagle flight. When nothing spectacular is going on, the majority of life consists of walking, rising in the morning, and acting appropriately. Walking is ranked last by Isaiah because it is often the most difficult activity to maintain. This place offers much more than just breathtaking moments. It is intended for the common people, the ones that demand a low-key, unremarkable level of faithfulness every day. The Wednesday afternoon is as completely covered with God's davar as the summit. During one of the darkest times in the Bible, the prophet Jeremiah looks for this same word. Lamentations 3:25. The Lord is kind to the soul that seeks him, and to those who qavah for him. After Babylon destroyed Jerusalem and set fire to the temple, Jeremiah penned the book of Lamentations while the city was in ruins, and he seeks the same thing from that destruction. The same interaction, the same entwining, the same word employed by Isaiah. If qavah holds in ashes, it will hold wherever you are at this moment. Let's pause for a moment. Hours of study in the original biblical languages are represented by everything you hear in this movie. Additionally, we want to give the content the richness it merits by letting it speak for itself. If you are interested in this type of Bible study, you might want to sign up as a channel member. It is among useful strategies to support us in carrying out this effort. Thank you to everyone who has previously supported this channel. This exists in part because of you. Fear is the second season. Furthermore, the shift from waiting to fear is inevitable, as one of the things that makes waiting so challenging is the worry about what might occur before the waiting is over. Psalm 121 talks about this season with an accuracy that, when you consider its initial context, is even more remarkable. This psalm is a part of a collection known as the Songs of Ascents. Jewish pilgrims sang Psalms 120 to 134 on their way to Jerusalem for the yearly celebrations that God had instituted. These were not leisurely walks. Pilgrims wandered through tough, open terrain for days. The route slopes could hide actual threats, bandits, untamed animals, and exposure to the severe weather conditions of the sun and cold. Psalm 121 was written for people who needed real confidence and were on a real path with real threats. The psalm begins with a query. I raise my gaze to the hills. Where does my assistance come from? This is a sincere inquiry, not a self-assured statement, as the Hebrew grammar makes evident.